We have a vision to be an international university of choice, anchored in Africa, dynamically shaping the future. Our mission is to inspire our community to transform and serve humanity through innovation and the collaborative pursuit of knowledge. To fully embrace the digital universe which we are beginning to inhabit, this is what we do at the University of Johannesburg. UJ, where the whole is far greater than the sum of its parts.
Swiftly on to our next presenter, Dr. Nnamdi O Madichie, who is Professor of Marketing and Entrepreneurship at UNIZIK Business School in the United Kingdom.
Hi, hello Maria, thanks for having me on. UNIZIK Business School is actually based in Nigeria, which is a part of a university I tend to shy away from mentioning because the name sounds like mine as well. So UNIZIK Business School is the business school of the Nnamdi O University, which is in Southeast Nigeria. So I'm wearing two hats for this presentation. My second affiliation is Bloomsbury Institute, which is just around the corner from the Association of Commonwealth Universities at Woburn House in London. So I'm wearing two hats. One is Professor of Marketing and Entrepreneurship at the UNIZIK Business School in Nigeria, and the second one is Research Fellow at the Bloomsbury Institute in London. Right, Bloomsbury Institute in London is quite interesting because it was a 500th or member number 500 to join the ACU, which is something that resonates and is something we're very proud of. So my two affiliations are on the screen. I was just looking at my slides and listening to the presenters before me, and I was going like, they've said it all, really, because most of the stuff I've got in there are what's happening now. Something I need to clarify as we move along is that there's nothing like post-COVID or the next or the new normal. It's all here. It's all here. We're living post-COVID, in the COVID that we don't know the end dates for. So basically, all the changes we're talking about have occurred. They've occurred in the last 4 to 5 months since the lockdown began. So that is one of the key things I just needed to make clear. And something else that's quite interesting about this session, it talks about shifts and changes in the research landscape. I'm not sure about the change bit, but yes, the shifts. There have been shifts because we've all pivoted. Most of us have zoomed out. Somebody was talking, last presenter was talking about whether there'll be more meetings or less meetings. I've never had as many meetings as I've had in the lockdown than prior to the lockdown. So there will be more, and it's never ending because we don't get the opportunity to bounce to meet up in the corridors and share a few ideas and exchange conversations over a cup of coffee or whatever the case is. So yes, there will be more meetings. Right then. So this is the context of my presentation. I'm not going to go into so much detail about each and every one of them, but something that's quite interesting that I need to highlight is, by the way, my presentation is based on the perspectives of universities in Africa, notably sub-Saharan Africa. So my agenda for the day, it's more like the context, the issue of research quality, rigor, relevance, impact has been talked about. Collaboration is a key. Collaboration cuts across not just international collaboration between authors, but also institutions. And of course, between institutions, the research office and the libraries. And that's where the 6 points comes in. The aspect of repositories. I must admit, I've not really done a thorough investigation of how many African universities actually have repositories. But if you're talking in terms of guaranteeing the impacts and citations or whatever the case is, you do need repositories because end of the day, the ranking of universities, if it's based on research, then repositories, especially in the case of the UK, we have what you call the PURE, which you will see at some later stage, which actually aggregates what will be submitted to the Research Excellence Framework, which is the REF, very powerful assessment for UK research. Right, so my direction of travel for this afternoon, it's based on something that's quite interesting, which is one of the reports that the ACU just recently released. And it was talking about strengthening universities' higher education during COVID's a snapshot of digital engagement in Commonwealth. So the operative word here, or rather the key word here, is Commonwealth Universities. So if you're talking about collaboration, it's all about sharing of ideas and exchange of research capacity within the Commonwealth countries. Many of sub-Saharan African countries are members of the Commonwealth. Of course, you've got Canada, Australia, and of course the United Kingdom, and a few in the Pacific as well. Right. So another post I want to draw your attention to is something I published in University World News on the 25th of July, where I was looking at some of the handicaps of academic research and publishing amongst African scholars. And I highlighted, because I pitched that study based on an interesting paper I came across that highlighted the handicap of Latin American scholars and of course how they are being marginalized in the world of research and ultimately university world rankings. So moving on from there, talking about university world rankings, I was just looking at the world rankings, top 200, and there's no African university in the top 200, so to speak, apart from possibly two from South Africa, as you can see by the arrow down here. University of Cape Town seems to be the leader in that sphere. And you can begin to see that the United States has about 60, United Kingdom 28. In the top 200 we're talking about. There's no African country here besides South Africa. Now that's something that's interesting and something I'll return to. Now if you look to the right of the screen, 2018, talking about science and engineering articles published in peer-reviewed journals. Of course, look at that. One particular region that's missing is Africa, broadly defined. Anyway, so we'll just move on from there. Now this is an interesting slide, and obviously this is a video. I'm not going to have time to play the video. It's a YouTube clip, and it's all about editors of leading journals, the top journals that most researchers aspire to have the publications in, under one roof, emphasizing the same thing I'm talking about today, summarizing some of the key elements regarding rigor, relevance, and of course your ability to communicate, document, and persuade your proposed journal outlets or research outlets. Right, I'll just move on to the next slide if I can. The ranking, yes, I mentioned about this, and University of Cape Town. There was something that's quite interesting about this is Wits in South Africa as well. I like this, and that's why I brought it here, because they're emphasizing the grand plan of having research published in leading international journals. That's something that's quite interesting. And it's heartwarming to see that African universities are actually thinking about international research and getting their voices out there, telling their stories in that global space, which is something that's quite heartwarming, as the case is. Right, now this is what the ranking for 2021 is, the Times Higher Education ranking. Now that's something, you can see the rank of the same University of Cape Town, 155. Heartwarming, and that was it. The next up is not in top 400. Now, let's look at some of the metrics, because many of the previous speakers before me have been talking about, mentioned metrics. Now, you look at overall. Now, overall is interesting. I'm just trying to get my cursor to hover around these things. Right, okay. So we've got, what's the core product of a university? Teaching, obviously. Teaching and learning. Now, for the rankings, you see teaching comes in there, research, citations, industry income, and of course, international outlook. Now, that's something that is quite interesting to think in terms of. So income generation does count. The research does count, and that obviously has to be quality research published in high impact journals of international repute. And besides that, we're talking about citations. One of the metrics for impacts happens to be citations. Unfortunately, that is not the only metric, or rather metric. You need to think in terms of what impact it has for policy. How is it informing policy, directing policy, bringing accountability and governance into policy making and managerial decision making? That's something that's quite interesting to think in terms of. Now, if you look at the UCT rankings, yes, arts and humanities, you can see the rank there. So World University Rankings 2021 rank, 2020 rank, you can see arts and humanities. The ranking varies depending on that particular discipline. So in arts and humanities, it was within 176 to 200. When it comes to life sciences, it gives you an indication of where the strengths lie within the university. Right, so this is what I tried to pull out of the rankings for the 2020, and just to talk about the rankings in the bracket of 201 to 250, you get one university with Witwatersrand, Stellenbosch in the bracket of 301, and the list goes on. The list goes on all the way down, and yours truly, University of Johannesburg, our hosts, further down on that line. So you can see research, citation, industry income, respectively, at these digits. Now, a few days ago, somebody wrote an article, something that's quite interesting, published an article in a blog run by Techidia. Now, obviously, this person was coming from the perspective of Nigeria, because you're looking at sibling rivalry between Nigeria and South African universities. Well, in every other sphere, not just university space. It was published on the 6th of September, a couple of days ago. And it highlighted some of the highly ranked universities in both countries and tried to map these. These universities are the top ranked universities in Nigeria within that particular THE world rankings, and obviously they're all outside the top 400. But you find behemoths or the old guard, such as University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, University of Nigeria, and Obafemi Awolowo University. Now, some of the new breed, especially Covenant University, is what's highlighted. If you look at some of the statistics, what it tells you here, the gray boxes, it talks about citations. And you can see that Lagos State University is top in terms of number of citations. When it comes to research, which is the brownish, orangish colored segment, the highest here is Covenant University in terms of research. And when it comes to teaching, that is something that is a bit abysmal in terms of their numbers, because the core product, which is teaching, the highest we have here is 23 in terms of ranking. So we've just looked at a synopsis or a snapshot of the Nigerian universities. What this author or this individual tried to do was to question the ranking and the rationale for the rankings, and of course to try and reconfigure those rankings. And of course, by the time he does that, it will be like rebasing of the economy, like we did. And of course, Nigerian universities will rank a bit higher than that. Now, this particular slide, what this slide is intended to do, sorry, I just got this in my way. What this slide is intended to do, I just decided to put my red circle around this. And I'm looking at the yellow bar, which is University of Lagos. Pretoria is this one. And where are we? So in terms of research, you can see what's happening in terms of research. University of Pretoria tops University of Johannesburg. So that's University of Pretoria on the second bar. First bar is University of Johannesburg. Then you find University of Western Cape and University of Lagos, one entrance from Nigeria. But when it comes to citation, you can see that it changes. The whole game changes. So when in terms of citations, University of Lagos tops the other universities. And when it comes to where are we? To international outlook, you can see that University of Johannesburg seems to be punching above the rest, which is something that's quite interesting and relevant for this particular conversation here. Right, we're talking about the shifting landscape of research. So I'll just get on to the business of the day, which is more like what needs to happen, what's happening now, and how has the shifts come about. My also is right. This is University of Pretoria.
We've got about 2 minutes, Prof.
Right. Right. Okay. So this University of Pretoria, a few days ago, they did a couple of well, they keep doing a couple of seminars, and the vice chancellor is very active on LinkedIn. So it's actually engaging and spotting areas for collaboration and mutual engagements internationally. In terms of areas of collaboration, the AERC, African Economic Research Consortium, is giving the opportunities for institutions to engage. So besides the work of the ACU, there are other organizations or international organizations that want to partner with universities in order to do something that is of impact. It's the Covenant University I talked about previously. Something else, in terms of international engagement, University of Ghana is doing a very good job, not because I've been invited to do a couple of presentations. And of course, if you look at it, you will see that it's Zoom. Everyone's gone digital. The Nigerian universities, City University, if you look at that here, engaging African academic diaspora. They're engaging with Africans in diaspora. And of course, this everybody here besides me on there is involved in the Western world, affiliated to universities in the Western world, and they're tapping that brain. That's interaction, that's collaboration and partnership. Is quite interesting. And you can see what the research landscape will look like. It's not about going around and interviewing people and doing more intercepts. Everything's gone Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Forms, you name it. Are these anything new? That's why I don't believe in the whole notion of post-COVID. This is now, it's here, it's been there, but it's ever more important. And well, right now you don't really have a choice but to engage in that. Now, the role of the libraries, repositories. University of Ghana, I found this very interesting and exciting because I've tried to get onto websites of a couple of other African universities. I know some universities do have it. Others are struggling to build one up, but this is a classic example of a best case scenario of what a repository should look like, and especially for African South African universities that are going for national research funding and all that, and Nigerian universities that are going for TED fund. These are the sort of places where you begin to cultivate harvests, and of course put the case forward for funding. Thank you very much.
The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.